are one of 9 schools that actually has polymer chemistry for undergrads. My advisor actually grows his own cancer cells to actually target them.
Oh,
They
interesting.
did computer programming to do Zika, to target
nice.
Zika.
Yeah.
Ebola, they did studies with Ebola, anything you can think of like that. I need to do a video about cancer stuff for Brian Barchuk, because what I did is actually massively helpful for what he could do. What you do is you actually build like, we're talking about something that would be granule size. But when you look at it, like when you outline it on a deal, I need to go through it. It'll look like a soccer ball. And then you have, because cancer cells have actually, like, they should have different receptors. So what you're doing is you're actually creating a lock and key situation, because they'll have different dipole moments and different Linden forces and stuff like that, to where you actually build a molecule that will only attach to that receptor. And then you attach that onto the ends of the actual ball. And then that inside that ball, you have to capture the chemo, the actual imaging and stuff. So then once it's sent through the body, imagine what happens. What do you think would happen?
Wouldn't it target the cancer cells, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So by biopsying the nerd did a video about Dr. Death.
Right. I saw that.
Dr. Death got the science right, but he fucked up on something. Because what he's talking about exactly what you would have to do in this situation. But he was talking about bacteria and animals and stuff. Well, by the time you do that, because you don't grow cancer cells to do all this experiment, because once you do the experiment, you destroy that cell, so you have to keep it growing to do it all right. He talked about it. Oh, well, you're supposed to do that, and then you give the antibiotics to that to figure out which ones work best. That would be great in theory, but yet by the time you actually get it done, the animal's dead from the bacteria infection. There's the issue with that. So doing it for cancer should be different. And so with Brian's being inoperable, it would actually shrink it. I've only found like one or two places that actually does this. It's called precision medication is the actual science stuff that it would be labeled under. But they would biopsy his, see if they could actually target it. Then they would actually, I don't have any idea how much it would cost. I don't know how long he would have to be on the pills, or if it would be an IV. I don't know. All I know is the science of how it works.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't get into, I got into grad school, but I couldn't finish because I didn't have the money.
Yeah,
so I left. And I also did studies in nonverbal human communication because I needed more financial aid. So I had to take on a second minor. So I went for communication, something that was easy for me. So it's like, okay, so that, and so, yeah, like I need to make a video on that because I think that would be important. And I just watched a video from the Young Turks where they were talking about a pancreatic cancer drug that in America is for a year's supply, $180,000. And it's like you can get it in other countries for like 3 to 6 times less.
Yeah, it was crazy.
It's like that's because if we can at least shrink it and keep it under control, we can at least give him a better way of life. And then he may have to take it for the rest of his life. But as long as it's not spreading and growing, he'll have probably a longer life expectancy would be the goal, and have a better quality of life. He won't be in so much pain. And but I don't know how expensive it is.
Yeah, I'm not a doctor, so I don't know. I know so little about any of that. I don't know what the best way forward, but I mean, it sounds like from what I've seen, like on his videos and stuff, he's really like fighting to do everything that he can to make it through.
And that's why I want to make that video, because I reached out on Brian Strong, but I haven't heard from him yet or anything. But I'll want to make that video so I can explain exactly how the science actually works. Because literally, that is an actual science thing, actually happened. Precision medicine's becoming more and more of a thing. There's a great story about a guy, because precision medicine's very, very fascinating, and this does actually come back to reptiles, and we'll get to that here in a minute. But there was a gentleman whose son had a disorder that they couldn't diagnose. His son would cry nonstop. So he couldn't cry no more. Like, he literally was out of tears. Dad didn't have a voice, but he was still actually physically crying, even though he couldn't. And it was like 7 years. Doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong with him. So his dad actually took the genetics of himself and the mom, figured out where the son's genetic was missing from their combination, and then went through and figured out what drugs would affect it, figured out what drugs are on FDA's approved list, and then seeing what things have that drug in it. Prilosec.
Oh, interesting.
It was that was it.
That was it. Yeah, that's super simple.
But you had to go through all that to figure it out. Now, my understanding is he's the precision medicine in Georgia University.
Oh,
the last time I heard. I'm like, I love that story. Oh my God. That's why I went to school. That's why I switched to the polymer chemistry,